Taoiseach, yesterday the Cabinet acted promptly. Sorry, I just want to catch your attention, Taoiseach. Let the House. Yesterday. Okay. Yesterday the Cabinet acted promptly to establish an independent inquiry into a broadcast by RTE, and that is to be commended. Taoiseach, the patient support and advocacy organisation Dignity for Patients has been campaigning for decades for an independent commission of inquiry into allegations about the sexual abuse of boys and young men in Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital in Drogheda. Taoiseach, you supported this demand in opposition, so did the Taoiseach. In July this year, the Minister of Health promised an inquiry. He acknowledged that many people have suffered as a consequence of not having this issue aired in public, and he told the Committee on Health that he had the agreement of the Attorney-General that there would be an Oireachtas Committee inquiry following the referendum. Now, as we know, the referendum was not passed, but the need and the demand for an inquiry remains. Now, Taoiseach, there are other questions I could raise here today. Ministerial leaks about increases in prescription charges, the closure of nursing homes, cuts in child benefits, further attacks on what remains of our sovereignty by the bigger states in the EU, and we will return to these issues. But the need to hold an independent inquiry into these allegations of sexual abuse must be dealt with you today with the same urgency you dealt with RTE. How can anyone have faith in a government if it refuses to stand up for these citizens and fails to assure the public that the systemic failures in the health services have been corrected? Taoiseach, will you establish an independent commission of inquiry into these events, as you promised in opposition, and will you announce this before the Christmas recess?
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach.
Thank you for your question. This is a matter of very serious concern and has been for quite some time. But I just say initially, Deputy, that in respect of the inquiry which the government instructed be held yesterday, arising from the grievous offence caused to Father Kevin Reynolds, I just want to make it clear that I respect completely the independence of Press Ombudsman Mr Horgan. He's carrying out an investigation, and I have no question over his independence in the role that he carries out. But I thought it important, following the initiative taken by the Minister of Communications, that the government should act in the best interests of the highest standards in journalism and in respect of the rights of every person in this matter. I had hoped that the referendum would be passed in respect of giving authority to Oireachtas committees to carry out investigations of matters of public interest. That didn't happen, obviously. The commitment entered into by the Minister was on that basis, and I think what we have to do now, Deputy Adams, is consult with the opposition parties and on the advice of the Attorney-General to see what options are open here in respect of pursuing the truth and the issue that you raised about Dr. Shine. This is a matter of a very serious concern, and I'd like to discuss the options with both yourself and Deputy Martin, following advice from the Attorney-General. So I'm not giving you any commitment other than that until I see what the best options open to us now are.
Well, with respect, Taoiseach, that's not good enough. The Cabinet has the authority to authorise such a commission of inquiry. The Minister of Health has already got that advice from the Attorney-General. It's very, very clear. I received a letter from a victim of this abuse, and he implores in this letter that you do something about this issue as you had promised. And he included actually a copy of an email he had sent to you a few years ago and your reply. And in that reply, you told him that Fine Gael and Labour had tabled a motion in support of an inquiry which Fianna Fáil and the Greens voted down. And I have the motion. It's a good motion. You said at the end of that, and I quote, "I know they," meaning Fianna Fáil and the Greens, "I know they were wrong to do this." So, Taoiseach, I agree. Now, If you refuse to hold an independent inquiry, you will also be wrong. And I want you to be right on this issue, not for your sake or my sake, but for the sake of the victims. And also to build confidence that justice is possible and that flaws in our systems can be corrected.
Have your question, Deputy.
So I ask you again, Taoiseach, to announce before the Christmas recess, and to give a commitment that you will announce before the Christmas recess a commission of inquiry, and that you will consult with the victims of this alleged abuse on the terms of reference. And finally, the patients advocacy group Dignity for Patients has had its funding significantly cut. I would also ask you, and I've raised this before with you and with the Minister of Health, to ensure that they are provided with core funding to continue with its crucial work on behalf of almost 200 citizens. So I ask you two questions. One, to make a commitment to come back here and make this announcement before the recess, and two, to restore funding and to supply core funding to patients, to Dignity for Patients led the Hub.
As I understand it, in response to your second question, that matter was already dealt with, and I replied to that question previously about the allocation of money between here and the end of the year for the hospital that you mentioned and for the patients that you refer to, and for the plans and programmes in place by the Minister to deal with that ongoing problem for the new year. In respect of the inquiry, I said in this House previously that I did not want to see a situation where toothless, Oireachtas committees would sit and talk about issues that are of serious concern, like the Shine case. And as I said to you, I'd like to be in a position to discuss the implications and what is the best thing to do now, both with yourself and Deputy Adams and representatives of the technical group, but also in respect of advice as to legally what is the best option here. I don't want to go down the road. I don't want to go down the road of an endless list of tribunals and inquiries. We've had some of these running for very many years. What is important here is to find out the truth in the situation.
Thank you.
What I want to do is have Dr. Riley meet with the people involved, that we have an understanding here, that we can arrive at a decision as to what the best way of proceeding from here is. I would have thought, well, I had hoped, but the people can't argue with the decision of the people.
Thank you.
In respect of the question about the referendum. I would have thought that Oireachtas committees with the appropriate powers would be able to deal with this.